podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Carry on curling. A bit of a calamity as Great Britain are left empty-handed so far. I'm John.
Not Barbara Windsor. I'm Michael, and this is the latest Milano Daily from Anything But Footy, talking about the Olympics and the Paralympics all the time, not just once every 4 years. I'm Sid James.
I much preferred Kenneth Williams. Now, no medal in the mixed doubles, struggles in the mixed team as well, and another fourth place in the Alpine Skiing for Great Britain.
And we've exhausted all the actors that we know and remember from the Carry On movies. Charles Hawtrey, one more for you. Now, Russia have won their first Paralympic gold medal in 12 years. And in TNT, that's tomorrow's news today, we'll hear from the second of Paralympics GB's 3 skiing teenagers.
It's always been a dream of mine since I was a little kid to actually compete in a big event like this.
Yeah, we round up the rest of the news from the Games, including Olympic champion Charlotte Banks bagging another World Cup win. Some British success at last. This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy. Download, listen and follow. Pass it on to your friends. We are here with all the latest Olympic and Paralympic news. After a week of watching them, going through the highs and the lows, Carry On curling came to an unfortunate end. It was not to be for Team JJ, a mixed doubles defeat to bottom-placed Italy in front of a raucous home crowd of children in Cortina. It left Joe Butterfield and Jason Keane in 5th place overall and out of the competition as the top 4 progressed. Now, it was a tense, frustrating, joyful and incredible match. The British pair somehow recovered from the worst possible start with a 4-0 first end loss to 5-2 at half-time down, even 10-4 down with 2 ends to play. And then they got to an extra end and the Italians snatched victory 11-10 in that extra end. Joe Butterfield said afterwards, "We're absolutely gutted that it wasn't enough. It wasn't that we weren't trying." Jason Keane said, "I've got no words, to be honest. I'm absolutely devastated. We gave 4 in the first end. If only we'd given 2, we'd have won. It was a case of would have, could have, should have, and all that." Now, look, they've only been together as a team for a few months, which actually kind of surprised me. I'm not really sure that's what should be happening as we go into a Paralympics game. But look, the experienced Canadians didn't even qualify for the tournament. So it's a little uncertain. But I do think there has to be some kind, more of a plan if you want to win other medals in the Paralympics, not just what we've been relying on, as we heard from Dr. Kate Baker yesterday, the Alpine skiers.
Yeah, and it goes back to a conversation that we had yesterday, doesn't it? In terms of it's been very difficult in this cycle for British para athletes to compete at the highest level and get to those qualifying events, get to those world championships, get to the events that they need to get to, so that when they come to the Paralympic Games, not only have they got the capabilities physically that they might need in whatever sport that is, but the mental capabilities of performing at the very highest level. And I think maybe what we have seen in the first few days of these games is just when it comes to that little difference of being able to produce the big moments when it matters, what we've seen with Paralympics GB, and I'm talking particularly here about the curlers so far, and we'll go on and talk about the mixed team event shortly, but they just haven't been able to deliver those big moments when it matters, which when you look at the likes of Eve Muirhead's rink or Bruce Mowatt's rink, whatever, Team Morrison, even, they competed together have been competing together for a good while. Even Team Morrison, when they were in the shadow of Team Muirhead, they were still competing together. They were still going to the big tournaments. And I think that all comes together when you come to the Paralympic Games. And I've just seen too many moments in these games where one of them needed to come up with a shot, needed to come up with something, and it just hasn't happened for them. And I think that's a bigger and broader question, which we need to look at if we want to support these Paralympic athletes to what we hope and expect is medal success when it comes to the games. We can't expect that of Joe Butterfield and Jason Keane if we haven't given them the tools in the other 3 years, 8 months or whatever of the cycle to give them the best opportunity to deliver on this, their biggest stage.
Well, you mentioned Bruce Mowat. the fact that his team, Team Moat, got through to the semi-finals because other results went their way. And that could have nearly happened with Joe and Jason, couldn't it? Estonia needed to lose and the USA needed to lose, and they nearly got there.
Yeah, but you don't want to be reliant, do you, on other people? That, as you said, they were way behind going into that final end. I mean, I was watching the feed, and the main commentator, what the Americans would call the play-by-play commentator, 10-4 down, 2 ends to play. Well, that's it. It's over, isn't it? And I think she was expecting at that point there was going to be some handshakes and conceding. And actually, it was the expert co-commentator said, well, still 2 ends, could still happen here. Couple of threes, it's not unheard of. It might happen. And it did happen. And it did happen. Yeah, I feel sorry for Joe and Jason because they went there. We spoke to them before. They had high hopes. They had high expectations. But I just wonder whether they've had everything in the last, as you said there, they've only been a partnership really for a very small amount of time and maybe with a bit longer. Maybe that will happen in the next cycle, although maybe this is a bigger issue, but just maybe a little bit more organization, structure, a bit more of a program in the intervening years would help.
But the USA did what they had to do, Michael.
Yeah, just before that, they stole at one point in the final end of their match against the unbeaten Chinese, so that they won 7-6. Big moment. They secured the big moment and they won. Stephen Empt said afterwards, they're the best team here, probably the best team in the world right now. If we want to be the best team in the world, then we've got to beat the best team in the world, and we did it. So despite Estonia's loss, as you mentioned, Great Britain missed out on that semi-final place and a chance to play for a medal. Jo Butterfield had said that she wanted the gold. She'd won that in Rio in athletics, wasn't to be. So the semi-final lineup, China v Latvia, Korea versus the States.
And carrying on with the curling, and big changes happened mid-match in the mixed team in the opening match. So there were a double header for the mixed team on day 3 of these games. And skip Hugh Niblo was replaced by the alternate, Graham Stewart, with Stuart Pimlett moving to the skip role. And that was after 2 ends. Great Britain were 3-0 down at that point, and they changed the team. I think we joked about it in the Olympics when Jen and Bruce were progressing so brilliantly, winning every single match, that maybe they could change the team because they didn't need to play. But this actually happened in a match, and they were 3-0 down, and the tactical change happened, and they actually turned it around, and they were leading 4-3 after the 5th end, and then 6-5 up going into the 8th end, again in a position where you can win a match against Korea. But they lost 2 shots, and they lost the match 7-6. And there were tears at the end as well, particularly from, I think, Stuart and Graham, who obviously had those positions change. So in the evening match, the second of the double headers, it was Great Britain against Sweden, a team with 3 wins out of 4. And Hugh Niblo was back. He's competing in his 3rd Paralympic Games, don't forget. It must have hurt him having been swapped out of that opening match for a tactical change, and Graham Stewart returned as an alternate. And again, they were leading after N6. They got a brilliant 3 on N6, and they were 5-3 up. But despite having the hammer on the final end, with it 5 points all, they needed to place a stone in the house with their 2 final shots. And they fell short both times. One went through, one crashed into another yellow. They were red and the Swedes were yellow. And Sweden won it 6-5. And it's so frustrating. And they're halfway through this mixed team competition. 1 win in 5. And remember, we were 8th 4 years ago. We're now 9th in the table. And as we've discussed, I just don't think they know what the best lineup is. And I don't think they really know what they're trying to do.
Yeah, it was a really interesting change, and it was you actually that pointed it out to me. I think a lot of people actually hadn't spotted it. I wasn't the only one at the time. When it happened, there was lots of things, lots of theories. Could it have been an injury? Could it have been
was he
a
all
need
right?
for rest?
Yeah.
Was he okay? What was the reason behind it? It does appear that it was a tactical move. And then obviously Hugh Niblo, as you say, was brought back in this evening, or for the evening match as well, but again, just didn't go quite right for them. I mean, they're not out of it, yet. That's the only thing to say. There is mathematics keeps them in. Pythagoras and his mates give them an opportunity at least, but they have given themselves the longest road back, haven't they?
They have one win out of five. So, as I say, the only thing I think you could look at is they haven't played teams that are below them or around them near the bottom. So, Italy, they play next. Latvia, Norway. Norway haven't won yet. So, they've got to play arguably three of the easiest teams. They've also got to play China, who are the defending champions. And that's the issue, I think. You're going to get, I think, Korea at the moment are third in the table, fourth in the table. So, the fourth playoff spot. Korea are there. They've already got 3 wins. So we've got 4 matches left. Great Britain are going to have to win 4 of them potentially to get there because Korea have already done it and they've already beaten us. So you're looking at the stats and going, there's half a games to go, but we're really out of this at the moment unless we can go on a roll. Now, you always say, and you always give me confidence, it doesn't matter how you start, it's how you finish. But they've got 4 huge matches to come, and that's the thing.
Yeah. It's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle. Talking of uphill, let's talk about things downhill.
Downhill, yeah, because it wasn't to be in the Alpine Skiing either. A successive 4th place for Neil Simpson and guide Rob Poth in the men's visually impaired Super G. Neil admitting afterwards he was disappointed with his run. He said he made some simple mistakes at the start of the run. But guide Rob Poth, who was making his Paralympic debut and was one of these changes again, we talked about team changes. They changed the guide for Neil as well. It was his brother in the downhill, Andrew, but Rob came in for this one and he actually started and talked about the racing afterwards and said, look, we're in a good place for what's to come. We've got 3 more events, starting with the combined on day 4. We will build our confidence and we will go again. And I think it's interesting that Rob has come in and there has been a switch. We hope Andrew's okay. He was partnering Neil, but he did suffer a serious knee injury a couple of years ago while competing. So maybe they were just looking at how things were working. And we know the conditions are tough as well in Cortina. But Fred Warburton, in contrast, is having a whale of a time. He continues his first Paralympics and he's really enjoying it. He's got huge support with James Hannon as well, his guide. A great 12th place finish for him in his first Paralympics.
Now, the gold was won by 20-year-old Johannes Aigner, second Paralympic title at these games on the slopes for Austria. Remember, we told you about his sister Veronica, medalist in the women's Super G. Behind the Italian Chiara Mazzello took the gold. Now, from a Paralympics GB point of view, Menna Fitzpatrick making her first appearance in these games, but Britain's most decorated winter Paralympian finished 6th. Her guide, Katie Guest, made her Paralympics debut at last. She missed out in Beijing, having tested positive for COVID on the eve of the games. Now, Menna admits that she enjoyed the racing. She's been finding her feet on the slope. She'd suffered this nasty ACL injury that we know just in December. So finishing in 6th position, some 10 seconds off the leader. Now, like Neil, she said that she's excited for the rest of the week. She does have more events to come. Does she feel better having got sort of one out the way and come through it safely and then maybe can go a bit harder, a bit stronger with the ACL that, as she said, was only in December. We're only here in March now. Is that the way, or has she tested it to its limit? And, there's nothing more to give. That's what we're going to find out, I guess.
I think you're right. There were 3 more competitions left for Menna and Katie, and they were all smiles. I've seen some amazing pictures of them with their family and with their friends and celebrating. And as you said, Menna said she feels excited now. She's completed it. She pulled out of the downhill at the weekend, but she's gone in this Super G and finished it. We have the combined coming up on day 4. It is the Super G again, and then the slalom. So they're the 2. You've got to race twice back to back. I think one's at 8 in the morning, one's at 12 in the lunchtime. So it's a turnaround. I think we'll get an idea of where she is in times of speed. But you look at the speed, yes, she's getting faster. I think downhill she was about 20 seconds behind the leader when she was in training. This time 10 seconds behind. A 6th place. There were other athletes that were behind her in that. Can she get to a level where she can win a medal? I just think it's really interesting, Michael, how much pressure has she put on herself to compete We talked about her guide, Katie, missing out on Beijing, and then she got injured in December, Menna, and thinking, well, do I have surgery? No, I'm not. I want to focus on the Paralympics. But how much pressure does she feel to compete? How much pressure do we put on her? That she's the most decorated athlete, etc. And
How much pressure is she getting from the organisations that she represents? Because ultimately, funding decisions are being made. Now, we know that the funding decisions in this era are not as cut and thrust as they perhaps once were, where, one poor games and that was it, you were done. We know that UK sport give a much longer approach and a much better viewpoint now to the national governing bodies over funding. So they do have opportunities to plan and to put processes in place. There's not just a decision one day and that's it. You earn half what you earned before. But when you get to an Olympics or a Paralympic Games, it's so big, it's so huge, it's so massive, and there are so many eyeballs on it that, yes, do you sometimes think I've got to do it? I've got to be at the Paralympics. I've got to be at the Olympics. If I miss out 4 years until the next one, this isn't a World Cup circuit where you might have a race every week, every 2 weeks. It's not even a season where you might have another go next year. This is 4 years, and you've got all of that, not just your personal pressure that you put on yourself, but you're representing GB Snow Sport. That GB Snow Sport are going to be in receipt of UK sport money, so you want to do your best because ultimately the organisation is going to be judged on results at these games and other events, of course, as I've said before. So it's not just about these runs, but huge amount of pressure on her to compete and get it right. And if she doesn't, then there's all that pressure that comes, well, why have we given her all this DCMS money? Why have we funded her through government funding and everything else to try and ultimately peak on 5 days in 4 years? I mean, that's tough.
And particularly, I think it's hard enough with the Olympics, but you get coverage maybe in some of the World Championships, depending on what sport you do, whether that's tennis, whether it's athletics or rowing or whatever. But I think in the Paralympics, with the Winter Paralympics as well, how much coverage. I mean, this is one of the things that UK Sport said to us before. There haven't been the competitions. We haven't been able to run people. Yes, people have been injured, but you haven't had the competitions in between. So if you've got one opportunity, as you say, one opportunity every 4 years to perform, then you're going to do your very best to get out there. And I go back to Lindsey Vonn at the Olympics.
Noah Lyles with COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't understand it at the time, but I sort of get it now.
Like Vonn, Lyles, they wanted to compete. They'd worked. They'd got to a position where they wanted to do it, and I think it's the same with Menna and Katie in this race as well. I just hope, and I what I'd like to think is tomorrow is another day. Everything can change in a blink of an eye, and suddenly you can get a bronze medal or maybe a gold medal further down the track. There was a lot of racing still to go, and they feel like they're getting better. And that's the way that I think when you look at Neil and Menna, the way that we need to look at it. But I think day 4 is going to be another huge day on the slopes.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hear from some other news from the Games now. Quite the day on the slopes at Cortina. A bit more criticism, John, from the skiers that the slushy conditions towards lunchtime were not conducive with world-class skiing.
Yes, more criticism, certainly from some Canadian athletes. I've heard the Americans not happy with this. The fact that, as you said, I think a couple episodes ago, we're in March. We're at the end of the snow season, particularly in Europe. Now, IPC spokesman Craig Spence has been reacting to this on behalf of the International Paralympic Committee, saying that athletes are used to snowing in March. He says,
Used to skiing in March. Used to snowing in March. Used to skiing in snow in March.
Used to skiing in March. He says, I don't think the weather conditions at the moment are any different to what we faced in Beijing, although there wasn't any snow there, Pyeongchang and Sochi. In the long term, like you said, we have to look at the impact on climate change, and we're not going to ignore that. But I think you can tell with some of the snow events and ski events being moved forward. So they're starting earlier on in the day, that they're trying to get these matches and these events happening before you get the heat of the day come lunchtime. One of the big results in the men's Super G, by the way, in the sitting category, was reigning champion and six-time Paralympic gold medalist Jesper Pedersen settling for silver after a brilliant display from the Netherlands, Jeroen Kampschreur. He had a huge win, particularly as he crashed out of the downhill at the weekend. So the Netherlands winning the Super G men's sitting gold medal.
And now what we heard at these games for the very first time, and the first time since 2014 at the Paralympics, the Russian national anthem. Vavava Veronchikina won the women's Super G standing event, having won bronze in the downhill at the weekend. So Russia's first Paralympic winter gold since Sochi. She said afterwards, "It's really special for me because I can see my flag on my friends who have arrived here."
Well, we all saw the flag, didn't we, as well? It was lifted at the top of the podium on the flagpole. I have a real struggle with this because I don't think it's a good look from a Paralympic point of view. I don't think it's a good look from a sporting general point of view. But I'm being honest, I also feel a bit like that with the USA flag at the moment, and Israel as well. And I'm really uncertain about how they progress. But Craig Spencer's been talking about this as well, Michael.
Yeah, he says, "I saw a medal ceremony like any other, very well respected by the athletes and the crowd. I think the crowd were receptive to the medal win. They just saw an athlete. I think that's what's really important here. They just saw an athlete at a sporting event winning a gold medal." You know, I don't disagree with that. I actually do. I agree. You know, I've known Craig a long time as well, so I'm slightly biased with the individual involved. But I do think people just see the performance and the athlete. For me, it's the inconsistencies of approaches right now that, you know, Russia were out, then they've come back in. But as we heard during the Olympic Games, when we had obviously a lot of the controversy over the Ukraine helmet, there's 130 conflicts going on in the world right now. That's what the Red Cross tell
131
us.
now.
131 conflicts going on. It's that inconsistency of approach. And if the rule was in 2022 and 2024 not to have Russian athletes because one of the contributory factors was the invasion of Ukraine, then why is that rule not being adhered to for other conflicts? Or if it is all about the athletes and putting the athletes first, well, why in 2024 didn't we have the Russians there?
Yeah,
it's inconsistent.
Just let everyone in.
Yeah, just say, look, whatever your country is doing, whatever regime you represent, we don't care whether you have invaded your neighbor, you're having a fight with someone else. We don't care. It's just about the athletes. Then if that is the approach, then we accept that approach. But actually, is it? Well, because we're a bit suspicious of Russia because they've got the doping stuff and now the invasion as well. So we're just going to combine all that and kick them out. It's just, it just doesn't add up to me. But I do agree with what Craig says is that, you know, Russian flag, Russian anthem, ultimately people are still just seeing a performance and an athlete, and the Paralympics is about inclusion. And that's what we celebrate with the Paralympic Games. And we, on this podcast, celebrate the achievement of the inclusion. We've always been about that. We've always seen the ability first and foremost, not about disability. And we always approach our interviews with our Paralympians along those lines, and not everybody does. And so I do understand what Craig Spencer's been saying there.
So Russia are on the medals table, as you'd expect, as day 3, day 4. Where are we in terms of who's leading? No surprise that China are still leading the way.
Yeah, China, who, you know, in the last couple of editions of the Paralympics have come from nowhere. 17 medals, 8 golds. Ukraine, 10 medals, 3 golds. Austria doing well. 3 golds, 4 medals in total. What is it that someone once said? If the Aigner family were a country, they would be on the medal table because they've all been won by the brother and sister. Italy, 2 golds and 5 medals.
So Great Britain, 4th, 5th and 6th on day 3. Tomorrow is another day, though, and this is Milano Daily, and TNT is tomorrow's news today. We'll have that and the other news from the Games coming up because we cover the Olympics and Paralympics all the time, not once every 4 years.
Zootopia 2 is coming home to Disney+.
Let's go!
Get ready for a new case.
We're the greatest partners of all time!
New friends.
Scary the Snake.
And your last name?
The Snake.
Dream Team.
And new habitats.
Zootopia has a secret reptile population.
You can watch the record-breaking phenomenon at home. Disney's Zootopia 2, streaming March 11th on Disney+. Rated PG. And right now, you can get Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 3 months with a special limited time offer. Ends March 24th. After 3 months, plan auto renews at $12.99 a month. Terms apply.
This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy. Tomorrow's news today, and our Teenage Kicks section of the podcast continues. And it gives us hope for the French Alps Paralympics to come in 2030 and Utah in 2034 as well. Hester Poole we had in the last episode, which was superb. 19-year-old Sam Cozens is a new Alpine skier for Paralympics GB from my neck of the woods in Heatherset in Norfolk. Actually, one of my best mates used to live in Heatherset. I know it very
A lot
very
of mountains in Norfolk to train on, I presume.
There are a lot, and you'll hear that in the interview in a moment, because he was spotted by the Great British Snow Sport Para Development Team in his teens. He competed in the European circuit in 25-26, and he secured several podiums during the season. And now he's at his first Paralympics Games. He'll be guided by Adam Hall, who's bizarrely the brother of fellow guide Ali, who we heard from with Hester yesterday. And I caught up with Adam and Sam just before the Games got underway.
It feels amazing. It's always been a dream of mine since I was a little kid to actually compete in a big event like this, and luckily it's finally come true.
How does it come about? Because you're only 19, and you've burst onto the scene really in the last couple of years. You worked really hard. Tell us about it.
So it's just been like a progressive thing. Obviously, I've been skiing now for 15 years since I was 4. Racing for probably coming up 9 years now, and just training away, just working on stuff constantly. And then just recently this season, I've just kind of got into all my racing and really dropped my points down.
And how do you get a partnership with Adam? How did that come about?
A lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah. They had to pay him a lot to take me. No, basically, he kind of just got handed to me. I couldn't find a guide that was quick enough for me, and there was lots of rumours about this one special guy from Scotland, and it turned out to be him. And now 4 years later, we're here.
It's been a pretty cool to be with Sam, someone that you get on with, and then you kind of, in a way, it's like a kind of a brotherly relationship. I can tell him to shut up. He can tell me to shut up. And I think that's why it works. You do spend a lot of time with each other. You're usually rooming with each other, and you're on the lifts all the time, and then he's talking in my ear the whole time. So
Talking in mine too, mate.
So yeah, no, it's really good. As soon as I met Sam, I was like, look, that's the goal, trying to get you to the Games and continue kind of be this stepping stone into your trajectory to become kind of a medalist in the future.
Because we joke about it, but in all seriousness, Sam has to trust you, and you have to trust Sam as well.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a big thing, trust. But because we've been together 4 years now, it came within about two and a half years is when we, I think, properly started trusting each other.
Sam, you mentioned about you started skiing at the age of 4. Would I be right in saying that you might have tried out the Traus dry ski slope?
I did indeed. That was where I first started. So I did beginner lessons up there from the age of 4, and I was skiing there till I was about 14, 15 years old.
Because I'm from Norwich myself. It's one of the flattest places in the country. Why on earth do you want to be a mountain skier?
Oh, I know. Luckily, it's actually also one of the best dry slopes in the country, in the entire of UK. Probably, you would argue, not as good as the ones up in Scotland, but I would say so. And they've got so much stuff there, and the matting that they use is like really, really good, high quality stuff. It's really good for kind of anyone to go learn there. And
in all seriousness, we've been watching the Olympics at the moment. The Paralympics is to come. When people say, "Well, there's no snow in this country, how are we supposed to have these athletes?" There are facilities out there. People can find them, can't they?
Yeah, for sure. For kind of like recreational skiers, you've obviously got all the indoor snow domes in the UK. for us as racers, they tend to be a little bit short, and the snow isn't kind of what we need it to be able to train properly. So when we train, we'll either go abroad, somewhere like Italy or Austria, or if it's like in the summer, we'll go to places like Lithuania, the Netherlands, train indoors there.
Is slalom your speciality? Because that's a lot of twisting in those knees, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Slalom is definitely the good one of mine. I'm all right at GS, but I've always been good in slalom.
And Adam, your role in that, just talk us through it, because you're radio connected, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'll be wearing bright colours, and we've got like a little radio in the helmet, so we can talk to each other the whole time. And then I'll be about 1 to 2 gates ahead of Sam, and then I'll just be calling kind of, it's not really like left, right, or anything like that. What maybe people do think, it's more what the sun is doing, whether sunshade, the snow conditions, kind of whether we roll over into a steep section or roll going into a flatter section. And I think latterly is more just kind of technical pointers as well, to try and get Sam maybe to. I know if I'm feeling like I'm being pushed back, then I'm fairly sure Sam's going to be feeling like he's going to push back. So just those pointers to keep him in a good position moving into each section and stuff like that.
So in some ways, Adam, your role is a bit like a commentator. You're kind of commentating as you go down the hill.
Yeah, but essentially, anything I do, I'll just report back to Sam, and then so he knows in that split second before he hits it, he's ready to ski through that section and then be ready for the next bit.
Well, we wish you the best in slalom and giant slalom, and thank you so much for talking to us. Have a great games. It's going to be so exciting.
Thank you very much.
Sam Cozens, Adam Hall speaking to John in action on Friday in the men's slalom. Our third British teenager and the youngest of them all on the pod tomorrow.
In other news away from the games, we should get your old jingle out here, Waydoc's Winter Wonders, because Charlotte Banks, the Olympic champion in the mixed snowboard cross in Milano Cortina, won her 27th World Cup event in the women's snowboard cross at the weekend.
She's back to work whilst a lot of the other medalists seem to be enjoying themselves. I mean, I was looking at some pictures of Matt Weston and Tabby Stoker with the pints on the go at the rugby. Not Charlotte. She's back doing it and winning medals.
She is. The 30-year-old won gold in the latest event in Turkey, and it means that she's in second place for the World Cup standings. She is after that crystal globe. That's what she's going for. She wants this crystal globe at the end of the season.
Yeah, crystal globe and an Olympic gold puts you in the sports personality contenders list, doesn't it? Now, Sky Brown is a world champion for the very first time in the women's skateboard park. Teenager who's now 17. Yeah, we've been talking about Sky Brown for a long time on this podcast, and she's still only 17. Among 365 skateboarders from 49 nations competing in Sao Paulo. She led from the start, and when the rain came and the competition was stopped after 2 runs, she topped the podium for the very first time, and on International Women's Day as well. She also called for world peace. Brilliant. Japan's Ibuki Matsumoto won the women's street. Compatriot Sasaki won the men's. Where's Andy McDonald? I mean, probably 88-year-old Andy McDonald, or whatever we have to call him now.
He's probably having pints with the rugby people, I would suggest. Now, 3 matches.
Fair play to him.
Now, 3 matches and 3 defeats for Great British Baseball in the World Classic, having lost to Mexico and the USA. They lost 7-4 to Italy in a European derby in Houston. The final match of the tournament is now crucial. They have to beat Brazil to pre-qualify for the 2029 Classic. I think my optimism about the LA Games probably need to put that slightly in its box for British baseball, but good luck to them in that final match. Thank you for your support during the Olympics and the Paralympics. We're continuing to bring you all the latest from Milano Cortina as the games continue. There are another 5 or 6 days to go and opportunities to come for Paralympics GB. Stay with us for the very latest news on our socials. You can check out the website anythingbutfooty.com. We'd love to hear from you if you've got any comments. I still haven't put Cotton Eye Joe on the playlist. I need to do that.
Good.
Thank you. This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy.
I'm here on the job site with Dale, who's a framing contractor.
Hey, good morning.
Dale traded up to Geico Commercial Auto Insurance for all his business vehicles. We're here where he needs us most.
Yep, they sure are.
We make it easy for him to save on all his insurance needs, all in one place, with coverage that fits his business and bottom line. Oh, I shouldn't have looked down.
It's all right.
We're so far up here.
Look at me. Take a deep breath.
No, I'm good. So good.
Get a commercial auto insurance quote today at geico.com and see how much you could save. It feels good to Geico.